What's going on, guys? Trev back again. We're bringing another video. This one's going to be doing my video review for UFC 158, Nick Diaz versus George St. Pierre. So I just got finished watching the fights. Pretty good night of fights. Particularly like the knockout of Nate Marquardt. Welcome back to UFC, Nate Marquardt. Jake Ellenberger. Fight with Johnny Hendricks and Carlos Condit was probably the fight of the night, I would say, at least in my opinion. I haven't seen the announcements yet for who actually won fight of the night. And George St. Pierre against Nick Diaz. So this was a fight that I was excited for, looking forward to for a very, very long time. I'd say over a year into 2 or 3 years I was anticipating, excited for, and just really looking forward to this fight. Now that it's finally here, to say that it was lackluster, I think is an understatement. The hype was just out of control, and by the time the fight actually came about, it did not live up to the hype, at least for me. I was really hoping that Nick Diaz would be able to land at least, so, working some of that boxing, that bare knuckle style boxing. Maybe, use his jiu-jitsu a bit, or just overall do something against GSP. He loses flat out, domination by GSP, 50-45 straight through every round. And, I mean, he looked pretty awful, to be honest with you. I mean, he did not look that good in this fight. Now, he did say he's been thinking about retiring for a long time. And he did just lose, well, sort of lost against Carlos Condit, even though that was a horrendous fight last year. And you could make an argument to say that Carlos running away should not really, him pushing the pace. He should have won that fight instead. So it was controversial. Definitely a lot of people felt that way. But this fight, I mean, I think a lot of us really hoped that somebody would be able to give GSP a really good run for his money. Put the pressure on him and have a really close fight. Have it be either a really close decision or possibly knock him out like Matt Serra did. Because it can be done. It's not impossible. It can be done. Now, people can say that was fluky or whatever. It wasn't. Matt Serra's got amazing boxing. He's got great hooks. And he really landed some good shots against GSP in that fight and knocked him out. Since then, GSP has been fighting super reserved and super careful in order to win. He doesn't really put himself out there and, really go for the knockouts or really go for it. He's more throwing, to win a decision. He knows. He's throwing jabs, again, not a punch that really is going to knock somebody out most of the time. I mean, you can't really knock somebody out with a jab. You can do damage over time, but, maybe get a TKO doctor stoppage from a lot of jabs cutting a person. But other than that, he takes guys down, lays in praise. You guys all know the story at this point. But he's not really looking to finish the fights. He's really looking to just take guys down, be careful, not lose, basically. He's fighting not to lose. He's fighting to win decisions every fight. So, I mean, his record's impeccable. It's 24-2, amazing. One of the best records in the history of the UFC. One of the most dominant champions in the history of the UFC. Maybe second most dominant, only in Anderson Silva. And, he's going to keep doing his thing. Johnny Hendricks will be against him in the next fight, looks like, in about 5 or 6 months. And should be, unless somebody gets hurt or something. But what's next for Diaz? I mean, this was a really disappointing performance for Diaz. He got manhandled, he got ragdolled, he got everything. He's taller than GSP, right? So it's going to be harder for him to make weight with more body, like if he puts on more muscle mass. But he definitely, I would say, has to put on a little bit more muscle mass to mess with GSP. He's just going to get ragdolled. And it's not, yes, GSP's wrestling is way better technically, way, way better. But, aside from just working on the technique too, if you look at Diaz's frame, he just doesn't have the strength and power to mess with GSP, to shrug him off and everything. Now, later in the fight, he was able to do it because GSP was getting tired, and he was able to, stop a lot of his takedowns. But even though he was able to do that, offensively, he wasn't doing much. He maybe landed a few shots, a few good shots, but not that many. And, he was just shut down. He was shut down in every degree. His jiu-jitsu seemed useless, because GSP's jiu-jitsu is pretty good too. Not as good as Nick Diaz's, but close, close enough to stop Diaz from doing anything. His sweeps underneath, it was a little tricky. He was able to get back up and mess GSP up a little bit. At least he didn't get stopped or anything like that from just being on down and, you know, pummeled over and over and over again. He was able to get back up. But his boxing was really disappointing, I think. GSP's karate coming in and out just dominating him, absolutely dominating him. You know, I did say in my prediction I thought GSP would win, obviously, but I hoped Nick Diaz would win. And just because if he did, it would have made things more interesting. It would have been a lot of fun, you know, to see maybe a rematch or, you know, it's just his wrestling is on another level. Diaz's wrestling can't mess with it. So I think at this point, Diaz being so, you know, he's two-dimensional. You know, his jiu-jitsu and his boxing. That's it. Other than that, he's got nothing. So he probably at this point should retire because, I mean, he's not going to develop the wrestling skills. In the UFC, he's going to get ragdolled. Even if he fights Johnny Hendricks, he's going to get taken down. He's going to get beaten just from decisions. It's going to happen more and more, just like it did when he used to be in the UFC. Sean Shirk did it to him before. GSP, of course, will do it to him even if they have a rematch. It's not going to happen unless he improves his wrestling. So that being said, he probably should retire. He's not going to be a champion. And he can't really move down in weight. I mean, he could go up. But if he fights anything like he did, you know, tonight, what's the point? You might as well just retire. I think that's what he probably should do. Even though he's a really exciting fighter, at this point, I mean, he's not going to be champion. Probably never will be. Doesn't seem like he wants to do it anymore. Should just retire. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about the fight and what you think about GSP. If you think Johnny Hendricks, you know, will pose any kind of threat against him, or do you think he's just going to steamroll through him as well? He's got to lose eventually. In the next couple of years, GSP's got to fall off eventually. So I'm waiting, excited to see that happen. Not that I hate GSP, but I hate the fact that he just is able to take guys down over and over again. It's not his fault. They should be able to stop him. You know, it's the opponent's fault for not being able to stop GSP from taking them down over and over again and just winning a lackluster decision, which is not exciting, is not competitive, you know. So hopefully Johnny Hendricks can stop those takedowns and we can see somebody beat GSP. Somebody's got to beat GSP. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. My thoughts on it. We'll probably be doing a prediction for Johnny Hendricks against GSP pretty soon. But in terms of Nick Diaz, very disappointing Nick Diaz. I think he should just retire at this point. Later, guys. Peace.